Welcome to the Shebeen, everybody. How's it going? Happy International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Day to you, Lauren,
Thank
and
you very much.
all our wonderful women of whiskey, of Irish whiskey. How are you getting on?
I am doing the very best. Yes, it's a nice day to celebrate all the incredible women who are distillers, brand founders, master blenders, the works all across the industry. And we don't stop there. We're going to talk about marketers tonight, bartenders, the works. In honor of International Women's Day today, I have poured, currently poured a drop of whiskey that is produced by a woman master blender. So my first drop of the night is a little Bushmills vermouth cask finish. And I have a little JJ Corey whiskey. It's the JJ Corey Battalion lined up after, of course, another female-led and founded brand. So we're all about the women tonight.
We're all about the women. We're going to showcase the masters, the makers, the marketers in the world of Irish whiskey tonight. We've gone to great lengths to scour the nation for those who are doing great things. And we didn't have to look far. An incredible list and too many to even cover, which is fantastic news. I think if we'd done this 3 or 4 years ago, we'd have thrown out 5 names and we'd have been done.
Yeah, I mean, when we were putting this list together, we actually had a really tough time cutting it down. And I don't mean that in the bad way. Like, if we listed every single woman in the industry, we genuinely would be here for about 3 hours, which is a lovely problem to have. Even when we were putting it together, we were just realizing the enormous amount of incredible women who are now part of the industry, and it's fantastic. So we'll do a very good deep dive tonight, and then there'll be a few honorary mentions at the end that we maybe couldn't go into as much detail about, but are very much appreciated all the same.
We'd also love to hear from you if there are women in the world of whiskey, Irish, otherwise. Let us know in the comments and we'll give them a shout out and maybe learn something about them ourselves tonight. Before we get into the women of whiskey, of Ireland's women of whiskey, we have some updates and announcements. Lauren, you are fresh from packing your bags ahead of a departure mid next week. Where are you headed and what's going on?
Where am I going next week? Wouldn't be the west of Ireland, would it? Yes. So this week has just been constant whiskey bus focus, of course, because this time next week, I cannot believe it is 7 days away. We will have already kicked off. Maybe some of us might be in bed, depending on the jet lag from where you've traveled. We will have kicked off our Wild West whiskey bus adventure this time next Friday. So super excited this week. I've been just catching up really for the final time with all of the wonderful brands that we'll visit over the next week, and finalizing a few little surprises for everyone, just flashing out final little bits of the itinerary, and I can't wait. I'm so excited, and I've been getting messages from a few of our lovely guests who are joining us as to how excited they are, so I can't wait. Can't believe we used to say, oh, it's 60 something days away, and now it's here, basically.
It's come so fast, and we've got some guests in the audience. I can see them tonight commenting, so we're looking forward to meeting you. We've never met some of you before. I'm really excited to do that. Whiskey is what brings us all together, and the great joy for us is the people we meet along the way. Honestly, take away all the whiskey, we'll still just want to meet you all, and that's the joy of this. We've had some great adventures over the past. But we've had, how many whiskey buses have we had so far? 2 full whiskey buses. This is our 3rd. This will be your 2nd whiskey bus. We have a 4th one coming up, a public one later in the year as well. Both of them are sold out this year. And it's going to be a great adventure. And like you said, this time next week, we'll have already had a medieval banquet in Napo Castle. And we'll be digesting and having a burp of Napo Castle 1951 this time of the night.
Absolutely. A few hotel residence bar drams at this stage. You said it's my 2nd whiskey bus, but really the first one I've been fully involved in, because I joined last June when the last year's August whiskey bus was already sold and organized, mostly anyway. So this is my first all-in whiskey bus. No pressure to deliver.
Well, look. We'll be keeping a close eye on you, and we'll be scoring you daily and presenting you with the scores in the morning.
Report cards every evening after each experience.
That's it. And no shortage of great people to meet along the way: makers, masters, blenders, distillers. It's going to be fantastic, and some great free nights to explore great cities as well, like Limerick and Galway. And then we drop the whiskey bus. Many of the whiskey bus, I think 2/3 of the whiskey bus attendees will come down to Cork with us at the end of the week and attend Cork Whiskey Fest and continue the imbibing and the meeting and the master classes, which is fantastic. So we'll hand the baton over to the crew at Cork Whiskey Fest on the Friday, and then Lauren and I will run into the distance to hide in the dark corner for a few days.
Lie in a fetal position in a dark room. No, we're only joking. We will, of course, be there as well. We'll likely be at the expo and maybe a couple of master classes throughout the weekend as well. So really excited. I mean, it'll be 10 days in total. I think we're on the road for, which is quite something. From the start of the whiskey bus to the end of Cork Whiskey Fest. But bring it on! Can't wait.
It's like a Taylor Swift tour.
It is. It is. We're like Elton John's farewell tour. We just won't leave. We just won't go home.
We've been doing farewell tours now for the past 2 years. We're going to keep at it. His final farewell tour. He's back. Right?
Promise this is the last one.
Definitely the last farewell tour.
Again.
So that's going to be a great week, and hopefully the weather stays good for us. If it doesn't matter, because we have weather coverings and which we call bars and buses, and we'll be perfectly taken care of. What else have we got going on? I want to let people know that for those of you who are Stories and Sips Whiskey Club members, we launched our 2 stacks custom blend this evening. I've put some stickers on mine already. I've been decorating my bottle. I've been customizing my bottle. We launched this about 2 hours ago. Little sticker sheets that are going with it there to customize it. I'm sipping on my 2 stacks dram in a can custom Stories and Sips blend that has been canned for us. If you're a member of the club and you want to get hold of a bottle or a can or 2 or 20, bundles are available now, and they will remain available on our website. So check those out. Really excited about this. So sipping on that tonight. I'm going to compile some good tasting notes as well and put them up on the website tomorrow. But great to see the orders coming in. And thanks as always for all the support. Really excited to get this blend into our hands and for us to have our first ever Whiskey Club blend. Quite a few of you there have already ordered, so fair play to you. Thanks to Tony and Richard and everyone else who made their orders. Amy forgot. She's going to buy right now. No problem, Amy. Got plenty there. Well done, Tom. He did the same. Great stuff. Great to see the orders flying in. So that's what's happening in Stories and Sips. And a quick update that on Monday, I had a great call today with the distiller in Middleton in the micro distillery, Barrett Stapleton, who is the distiller in the micro distillery, and he is responsible for Method and Madness. Many of you ordered these tasting kits from us, and these shipped last week, and most of them have landed, and a few are landing on Monday or Saturday and Monday. These 3 samples of Method and Madness. So Monday night we have a tasting at midnight Irish time, 7 p.m. Eastern, with Barrett Stapleton, head distiller, the micro distillery in Middleton Distillery, to lead us through Method and Madness. He's got some great stories ready for us. I was talking to him earlier today, and he's looking forward to the crack. He's just back from America himself, and he actually met some Whiskey Bus guests in New Jersey who are joining us. So he got to meet you, and he'll see you again, or he might see you again Monday night, and he may even see some of you in Cork Whiskey Fest as well.
Yeah, I am actually really excited for everyone who hasn't tried the Gariana to taste it, because Barry, we've raved about it quite a lot. Yeah. Like, we're big fans of the Gariana. As I said, I've said many times, it's probably my favorite Method and Madness release, certainly for the price as well. So I'm really excited to see the reception on Monday. I'm at a Dingle tasting in Belfast just before the Method and Madness event, so I'll probably have about 12 whiskies on Monday. Sure, what a way to start the week.
What? Wait, there'll be 9 whiskies at Dingle, will there? What kind of a tasting is that?
I know. A good one.
That's great. So you'll be all ready for the whiskey bus on Thursday. Perfect.
Absolutely. I'm preparing myself for 7 nights of or 7 days, I should say, of whiskey.
10 days.
True.
So, should we celebrate the women of Irish whiskey?
We absolutely should. And I mean, of course, we appreciate women, not just in the industry, but all women and our families and our friends at all times throughout the year. But on a day like today is where you give the incredible women in your lives a little bit of a special and an extra mention. So International Women's Day is celebrated on the 8th of March every year. And we thought it fell perfectly tonight on a Friday for the shebeen. So we thought it was a great topic to cover, to highlight some of the unbelievable women, spanning from brand ambassadors to distillers, blenders, right up to marketers as well of the whiskey. So we're really covering quite a broad spectrum of roles that women hold in the Irish whiskey industry. And it's incredible to see, as we mentioned, because I think certainly even 10 years ago, when I joined the Irish whiskey industry, you did still get the comments of whiskey is an old man's drink. It's a male-dominated industry. Why would you want to work in that industry? And we still have a long way to go. But thankfully, it is improving and we are getting there, and we are seeing more women join the industry. We have a much broader sort of pool of people now drinking whiskey, not just men, which is brilliant, which has been the result of the incredible work that brands have done through cocktail programs and so on and so forth, and just spreading the word of whiskey and how versatile it really can be, which is fantastic. So we're going to mention some incredible women this evening, tonight, and talk a little bit about them and what they do.
We recognize, because we hear the stories all the time, that it is still very challenging industry to crack into and to be part of. And Lauren, you've probably experienced that more than others, like you mentioned, the role of like trade shows and things like that. And I know it's a common refrain that we hear continuously, that it is still tough for women to be taken seriously in the world of whiskey, as if men have some lock or monopoly on understanding, tasting, nosing, buying whiskey, which is not the case. And we know from the figures of those buying it that it's much more evenly split than people would have us believe. And but it is only very recently that the numbers have started to shift in the right direction towards women working in whiskey. And so it's worth recognizing that I think it's harder for women to break into it, but there's more. I mean, I don't know, but I'm assuming, based on what I'm hearing, but Lauren, you'd know better. I don't want to put words into any woman's mouth about the role of women in whiskey.
Yeah, it definitely is improving, which is great to see. And there's some really interesting figures that have come out from various sort of reports and associations. And a really interesting one that kind of appeared towards the end of last year, just before Christmas, from Becky Paskin, who is the founder of Our Whiskey Foundation. She's based in London, but she does a lot of great work with Scotch whiskey brands and Irish whiskey brands too. And she released or wrote a great article that was basically around Christmas and Easter and kind of all the celebration periods of the year. Whiskey, Father's Day, whiskey is always directed towards men, and there's never any gift guides which include whiskey for women. It's always gin, it's always vodka. But yet a third of the whiskey drinkers in the world are women. So she was kind of pushing this idea that why, be nice for brands and gift guides to incorporate more whiskey suggestions into their sort of gift guide for women. And also a really interesting report from the Irish Whiskey Association on their sustainability roadmap from, I think, 2022. It was that 63% of the people now working in the Irish whiskey industry are male and 37 are women. So it is an improvement, but as we said, there's still a little way to go, which I have no doubt that we will grow and we will improve in that in the years to come with the growth of the industry.
I remember somebody sharing with me, and I think it was a man sharing a very wise statement, that women tend to have better noses, better olfactory senses, and are better able to detect nuance in whiskey. And so it does benefit all of us consumers for there to be more women nosing and tasting and making whiskey, because we're all going to be the beneficiaries of that.
Exactly. I remember actually Helen Mulholland, who of course will be mentioned tonight, telling me that a few years ago. And I actually didn't know that. And then I did a little bit of a research into it myself, and it is true. So that's why women allegedly make better master blenders for that reason. So there we go.
Right. So should we crack on? Well, actually, just a quick preface on this. This list is not exhaustive because there are just too many for time to mention. Not that anyone is being prioritized in favor of others. And so a blanket apology in advance for those we undoubtedly will offend by omitting. So we have added as many as is possible within the time constraints, because some of us will have breakfast to have in the morning as well, and we'd like to get some bed before that. But we're mentioning a cross section of makers, masters, and marketers, that in the hopes that we can introduce you to them. But it's only the tip of the iceberg. Thankfully, there are many, many more women doing great things. And there are also many, many more women doing things that we don't know about, Lauren. Like, you may not know them, I may not know them, and that's fantastic too. So the ones we are sharing, we're lucky enough to maybe know them either individually or jointly. And the others, we say, make yourselves known. We want to hero you too.
I couldn't agree more. Even today, again, when we were finalizing the list of people, and as Barry said, we were overwhelmed at the amount of women in a good way. And where do you stop really with including people? But even today, with it being International Women's Day, a lot of brands were obviously heroing the women in their team, whether it be their ambassadors or their distillers. And I was actually so pleased to see how many women that will eventually come through the ranks and up the ranks of Irish whiskey. There were so many brands highlighting and showcasing their apprentice distillers who were women, their apprentice blenders, and it's amazing. So I would say if we did something like this next year, there'd be an even longer list and even more people, and maybe someone who kind of became a real shining star of the Irish whiskey industry in the next 12 months. So yeah, it's fantastic to see.
We'll set aside a week to explore the women of whiskey next year.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do a live stream every night and include absolutely everyone.
Many of these names and faces will be familiar to you. Others may not be so. And there were some that were even introduced to me tonight from Lauren, and then vice versa. So let's crack into this list, and then you can share with me. Or do you want to address that, Lauren? You put up there on the screen.
That's a great question, Rich. Working obviously in my previous role alongside Helen Mulholland and Alex Thomas, two incredible ladies, they actually say that it is best not even when nosing whiskey, but tasting whiskey as well. So even if you're not even in their line of work, of course, which is incredibly important, but if they were going to a tasting, or if anyone was going to a tasting, it's actually best not to do that, because it can interfere with your senses. If you have a really strong cologne or perfume on you, it really, all you can smell is that, and it kind of sort of sways your palate and your nose. And also they try to refrain as well. Say if a blender or a distiller is doing a little bit of nosing or tasting, they will try to not have coffee, for example, in the morning, or if they're a smoker, they wouldn't have a cigarette, because it really impacts their nose and their taste. So that's a great question, actually. Anyway.
We're going to start with the makers. How would you classify the makers?
Yeah, this is a great point as well. So what we mean by makers are people who are either responsible for founding a brand, so they have made literally their own brand, or also people who have a really interesting role within the distillery that they work in, which we'll come on to as well. So it's not necessarily just founders, it's people who maybe work in distilleries and have obviously contributed massively to their distillery, to their brand, and to the industry. So not just founders.
Let's kick off with a great maker, and that's Jennifer Nickerson. Jennifer was kind enough to join us on our Stories and Tips Meet the Maker last month. Jennifer is the co-founder, together with her husband and her dad, of the Tipperary Boutique Distillery in Tipperary. And Jennifer is from Scotland. Her dad's from Scotland. Jennifer grew up in the Scotch whiskey industry. Her father is a well-known distiller. Jennifer worked in the industry herself growing up. She then became, she studied to become a vet. She became a vet, realized that's all kinds of late nights and weekends, and said, no, that's not for me. So she went to the opposite end and became an accountant and management accountant, and then decided she wanted something very exciting to do and something to dig her teeth into. And so she, together with her husband, Liam, started on Liam's family farm in Tipperary Boutique Distillery. And Jennifer is a great advocate for women in the world of whiskey. Just today, it was announced that she launched a collaborative whiskey with JJ Corrie, with Louisa McGuan, the founder of JJ Corrie, where they both released the same liquid in two separate bottlings, one in the JJ Corrie branding and one under the Tipperary Boutique Distillery branding, small run of whiskies called the Founders. And so Jennifer is a great ambassador for whiskey and brings a wealth of knowledge from the accounting side, from the Scotch whiskey industry. And she led a great panel, our great taste, our great masterclass in the economics of running a distillery with us a month ago, which shocked us and frightened us and warned us all off ever running a distillery. But she's a worthy recognized maker tonight.
Absolutely. I thought her tasting with you was so interesting. And just she covered so many things that we wouldn't even cross our mind as consumers of whiskey, and the cost of producing a bottle right down to the labeling, the bottle itself was so interesting. It was, she, as you say, Barry, she's a fountain of knowledge in all aspects of what it takes to run a distillery and produce and release whiskey. So definitely she's our first up for tonight. I think she put everyone off ever wanting to start a distillery. With all the figures and all the costs and numbers. She's doing a great job, in fairness.
Speaking of starting a distillery.
Yeah, exactly. Just on that as well, you mentioned the release between Jennifer, between Tipperary Boutique and JJ Corey for our Whiskey Busters. I was chatting to the team at JJ Corey, and they will hopefully have a few bottles available for purchase when we visit there on St. Patrick's Day as well. So hopefully, anyway, you can,
because it's sold out already online.
Yes, exactly.
Today, yeah,
exactly. So next up, we have someone who's a little bit closer physically to my home, which is, of course, Fiona Boyd Armstrong. So Fiona is co-founder of the Redaemon Estate Distillery, of course, which produces Short Cross Irish gin and whiskey. So Fiona, again, similar to Jennifer, she's a husband and wife duo with her partner David, her husband David. They had always had a dream of opening and running their own distillery, and the foundations of the Redaemon Estate Distillery were laid in 2012. And while that was happening, David and Fiona, they traveled the world, Europe, Asia, America, and they did extensive research on distillation, the different styles of whiskey, processes all across the world, to really understand and know exactly the style and the type of whiskey that they wanted to produce. So they ordered their first stills then in 2013, and the Redaemon Estate Distillery was a real kind of goal of Fiona's, because it sits on her family land in the Redaemon Estate in Crossgar in County Down. It's over 400 acres of land, beautiful estate, which dates back over 400 years as well. So it's a beautiful distillery, a visit on the first Whiskey Bus, and a visit in September's Whiskey Bus as well, which is great.
Also, worth noting, Fiona was one of the first women to own a distillery in modern times in Ireland, on the island of Ireland, which is great. Now you've got Jennifer as well. There's a few others, Dingle, Skellig, 18 as well, a few others, but trailblazer there. So fair play to you, Fiona.
Massively, absolutely, and she's still very much hands-on. And the Short Cross is still it's a small distillery, a small team. So she's a busy woman. She's still very much hands-on with all the day-to-day operations of the distillery and the releases as well, which is fantastic.
And we've had some releases. We've had one release so far through Stories and Sips from Redaemon Estate, from Short Cross. There's another one on the way, which will be an interesting one that'll involve a stout cat. That's in progress. More to be revealed on that. Let's get over the 2 Stacks whiskey first.
I forgot about that one, actually. I'm really excited for that one too.
That's coming.
It's on the way.
Next up, we should recognize Ireland's first carbon neutral distillery, and that is a Haskell distillery in East Galway, about an hour east of Galway City, and a stop for us in our whiskey bus in a week's time, which we're very excited about. And we're meeting the McAllisters there for a fantastic day where we're going to do some really interesting eco-friendly things, even up on the roof of the distillery. The Michelle and Garrett McAllister, the founders, Michelle and Garrett, were working overseas, working in Asia, and really had a real kind of hankering to come back to Ireland and do something in the food and drinks industry. They saw from the Far East what was happening in terms of the resurgence of interest in Irish food and Irish drink. They saw it happening overseas, the interest in things like Ireland, and they thought, you know what, we could go back and throw our hat in the ring there, and throw their hat in the ring. They did. Michelle and Gareth put a big investment of theirs, their friends, their family. They raised money to build a significant distillery in an old mill, an abandoned mill that had been out of action since the 1950s. really went to great lengths to not just restore the building, but build a distillery within a building that couldn't be altered because of preservation orders on it. Did amazing stonework and have now officially opened and are distilling in Ireland's first carbon neutral distillery. So all of their energy gets recycled. The heat from the stills gets reused to power the brewing, to power the lights, to power the electricity. They've got solar panels covering the roof. They are right now they're sourcing whiskey. They are making gin, and they have a great range of whiskies available under the Cancalla name and Uish as well. And they are well worth mentioning. Michelle is a passionate advocate. They had really no connection to East Galway, only that they found this place and fell in love with it. And when our whiskey busters visit there next week, you'll see photographs of the shell of the building and then the finished building. There's a fantastic vista from the coffee shop across the road, which they own as well, where you stand and there's a picture on the wall of the shell of the building. And then you walk to the right, there's a massive window, and out the window you see the same view, but it's the actual distillery finished. So amazing. Michelle McAllister gets a resounding mention here tonight.
And when I visited a Hascraw back in, I think November it was, I was chatting to the team there, and they were saying that you said Michelle and Garth were very kind of charmed by the village and the old mill, and they just found the perfect home for their distillery, basically, but also the people, the community. It's a very, very small village. It's absolutely tiny. The people were delighted to have them come in and see a bit of investment kind of put back into the village, because when you build a distillery, you don't just build a distillery, you build a community and you bring tourism in and the likes of that, which benefits the whole village. So they were delighted to see the old mill being put back to good use again. So they've done, Michelle obviously leading the way there as well. They've done incredible work with a Hascraw. So
and their head distiller deserves a mention as well.
Yes, she's head distiller also fantastic. She was previously Dingle as well. She previously worked with Dingle. She hopefully should be there next week to chat us through what she does as well. So yeah, lovely woman power at a Hascraw in Galway. Yes, another whiskey bus stop. We have not done this intentionally, genuinely.
We're just visiting women-owned businesses on Whiskey Bus 3.
Yeah, exactly. We just a lot of women founders and owners along the way for next week, which is fantastic. So this lady needs very little introduction, but Louise McGuane, of course, the founder of JJ Corey Irish Whiskey. When Louise founded JJ Corey back in about 2015, was it? She was the first Irish whiskey bonder in almost 50 years, which is unbelievable at that time in Ireland. So really reviving a kind of lost tradition of bonding in Ireland, which was fantastic. And Louise, her career previous to founding JJ Corey was still within the drinks industry. So she left Ireland at about 18. She's worked for the likes of Diageo, Moët Hennessy, Pernod Ricard, from New York to Paris to London. So she had extensive knowledge of not only the Irish whiskey industry, but the global drinks industry as well. And she could really see the appetite and the growth for Irish whiskey starting to appear in Ireland around that time, which was great. And she, I think in her words, she wasn't a fan of the kind of more corporate life that she worked with the likes of Diageo, and she wanted a more hands-on approach. And that was a massive reason why she came back to Ireland and created JJ Corey. So she sources casks, sources spirit from all over Ireland, from distilleries, sources casks from all over the world as well, to create a really unique library of casks and flavor profiles that she can use to create really, really unique releases. And she has some seriously special casks aging in her bonded warehouse at her farm in Curraclare in County Clare, which we will see next week.
Louise shared the story previously of being in London, working for Diageo, and seeing the business plan or the proposal for the Dingle distillery back in 2012 cross her desk. And it sat with her, and this was pre-resurgence of Irish whiskey, because Dingle really was the precursor to the resurgence of Irish whiskey, and maybe the straw that broke the camel's back and got people excited and interested in boutique distilling and its potential. And it goes to show, you talked about something earlier, Lauren, about how there'll be people next year we'll talk about who were inspired by somebody this year or last year, and they'll then come up in the drinks world. And it's the same here. It's the more we can talk about what's going on, and the more we can share, and the more that's done, the more people start to see it and do interesting things. Louise is standing on the shoulders of others. Others are going to stand on the shoulders of Louise, and on it goes, which is quite interesting.
Absolutely. And obviously, Barry, you held up the Cliffs of Moher release there as well. You've had a fair few releases under JJ Corey, which is great as well. And that'll be my next pour, as I mentioned earlier tonight, the Battalion, which is one of my favorite releases from Louise. So I think as a bonder, she has a really unique position that she is able to create really, really unique whiskies and flavor profiles due to sourcing spirit from various distilleries in Ireland and really unique casks as well. So she does. I'm a big fan of Louise. She does incredible work, and one of the only Solera systems I've ever seen in work in Ireland as well.
Yeah.
In her
We're going to get to see that next week, and maybe even taste from it.
Who knows?
Who knows? Barry, don't be giving away all the secrets. Don't be telling anybody.
No, you're okay. You haven't given away any secrets yet. I'll just kick you off if you start to talk about them.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm giving you too much control here on the admin panel.
Yeah.
Next up, we want to mention Sally Ann Cooney and the Cooney family, who are the founders of Boann Distillery in Drogheda, and not too far from Dublin, probably 45 minutes outside Dublin. And Sally Ann and the family are powerhouses in the drinks industry and have been for many, many years in the soft drinks industry, in the cider industry, in the Irish cream industry, the beer industry, and now in the world of whiskey as well. And Boann Distillery is a former car showroom that was converted into a distillery and has triple distillation taking place there, pot still whiskey being made, malt whiskey being made, nanotechnology deployed on the inside of the stills, where there's kind of a dimpling in the line arm, where there's extra surface area being made available, extra copper being made available to spirit for extra reflux. Anyway, Sally Ann is a powerhouse in the Boyne Valley in the drinks industry and the food and drinks industry. There's great celebrations of the food and drinks suppliers and makers in the Boyne Valley, and have had the pleasure of hearing Sally Ann share her passion for what's being made in that part of Ireland. And we've a lot that you'll be familiar with Boann Distillery through the likes of the Whistler range of whiskies that are sourced currently, but they have started to release their own whiskies, their solstice releases that have been released. I think they've had 3 of them now so far, and we'll be hearing more from them. We as a whiskey club actually own 2 of their casks that are in sleeping, in storage, and in maturing. They're the vintage mash bills that Fionnán O'Connor helped distill with Michael Walsh, the distiller, going back a few years now, 2, maybe 3 years, actually 3 years now. So we have 2 casks from there that in time will become whiskey releases for us as well. So Sally Ann, a great ambassador for Irish whiskey in the drinks industry.
Absolutely. And Boann's actually one of the masterclasses that I decided to go to in Cork, because I've heard fantastic things about their presentation. So I've never been to a masterclass of Boann before, and people have raved about how great they are. So I'm very, very excited to hear a little bit more directly from them in a couple of weeks' time as well. It's fantastic.
See, if you folks there wondering how we're going to squeeze Boann into our trip as well, listen, folks, if we're going up the West Coast and then all the way back to Cork, if you think you're going up to Boann as well, you're on your own. We'll give you the number of a taxi, and away you go.
It's a good probably 2.5, 3 hour drive away. So unfortunately not possible this time. You never know.
Closer
we'll
to 4.
See.
Yeah, God bless you. And we'll point you on the road that leaves Cork, and we'll say go that way. That's as good as we'll do. Yeah.
About probably 4 hours, 4 and a bit hours from Cork.
About that, yeah, 4.5, yeah.
About that, yeah. You can sample them at various watering holes along the way on the whiskey bus, but maybe not physically go there this time. But anyway,
I have on that note, I remember being in a bar in Ohio years ago, and it was getting late at night, and this fella came in and started talking to a group of us that were there, and he said, "Look, I want to buy you a drink," and it's okay. We bought us a drink. We're all having a drink anyway. He's telling us, he's asking us who we are, and we're telling him, and we ask him who he is, and he said, "Don't worry about me," he said, "but I can get you to Burning Man Festival in the morning. Are you ready?" I thought, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I have a car ready to go. Come with me now. We're going to go to Burning Man." And I thought, all right, this could either be the best night of our lives or the worst night of our lives. We didn't take him up on the offer, but I often wonder what would have happened if we got in that car and went to Burning Man. Would we have survived it?
I've heard horror stories from that festival online, so I think you maybe made the right decision not going. Who knows?
We'll never know. We'll never know.
You'll never know. You'll never know. So next up, I think this is possibly the final lady in our makers section is Angelita Hines. Barry, you probably know a little bit more about Angelita than I would, but I was reading a little bit into her role. She is the terroir specialist at Waterford Distillery, and she joined their team in 2020, initially as an apprentice. I think she was only meant to be there for about 8 to 10 months, and 4 years later, she's still there doing incredible work, which is testament to how interesting what Waterford does, and obviously her skill as well. So she is, I believe, currently the only person in the world in this role, in a role of this nature, because I guess no one really does it like Waterford does it and really leans into the terroir aspect like they do. So Angelita essentially, she works in their lab, and she studies the soil, of course, which leads into the terroir aspect of Waterford. So she will study soil samples. There'll be different micronutrients in the soil, and some will be heavier, some will have different components, more calcium, some will be closer to the sea, some are further inland, which obviously all impacts terroir. And then she also has a library of every single distillation from each batch of barley from every farm that Waterford sources barley from. So she's creating a library of flavors that from each batch of barley they have distilled from, which I just think is incredible. And the extent of that role and the knowledge and the palate and the nose that you would need for a role like that is absolutely incredible. So it's the only role of its kind in the world, and absolutely fascinating what she does.
If you've ever listened to the Waterford Whiskey podcast that I hosted for 2 seasons, there's a half an episode is with Angelita, and her passion for what she does is just effusive, and you can't but start smiling the minute she starts talking about what she does, because she is out of her chair, passionate, explaining what all of her arms are flailing. She's telling you how excited she is about this, that, and the other thing, and how proud she is to be part of this experimentation process, this exploration of flavor. And she leads the sensorial panels in the distillery, and like Lauren said, keeps a record of all of the notes and flavors of every single drop of new make spirit that comes out of the distillery, and they're in safe hands. Go listen to the Waterford Whiskey podcast and find the episode with Angelita, because if you don't get excited about how whiskey is made after that, nobody can get you excited about how whiskey is made.
I totally agree. And listening to people like Ned from Waterford and Neil as well, they are, when you hear them and you hear their passion and you really understand the concept and what they're trying to do and achieve, you cannot help but fall in love with the brand and what they do. As you said, Barry, their passion is infectious. And when you don't meet people like that very often, but when you do, it's incredible and you learn so much from them.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, fair play to Angelita. Now, I also want to mention, go all the way up the opposite end of Ireland. So we go from Ireland's southeast to Ireland's northwest, up to Ardra and the northwest coast of Donegal, to the remote Slieve League cliffs, and to the distillery built by Moira and James Doherty, who you see in the picture there, just celebrating their inaugural release from the Ardra distillery. You'll know the legendary Silky, the Dark Silky, Midnight Silky as being their sourced whiskies. Moira also responsible for their gin production. On Doulamon is their gin, and it has unique elements of the coast of Donegal in their seaweed and elements of coast Donegal. Yeah, they can't be found anywhere else. And Moira and James are massive proponents of all things Donegal. They're great proponents of Donegal distilling and a return to the style of smoky whiskey distillation and gin making that would have been historically well known and well sought out in Donegal. So Moira and James moved to Donegal, where their own families had roots a couple of generations ago. Grandparents had roots there, and they moved back there with their family to make an impact. And we hear the story so many times of people who have they have a vision, they have an idea, they want to fulfill a goal, they want to do something that their family started, they want to honor a family member from times gone by, and that's what Moira and James are doing up in the Northwest Coast, and great supporters of the world of Irish whiskey.
Fantastic inclusion.
Thank you.
It was quite funny when we were like, oh yes, we need to put them in. Yes, she has to go in as well. We're like, we're going to be a 4-hour shebang tonight.
I mean, how many times were we messaging back and forth saying, we forgot about somebody, we forgot about somebody, we forgot about somebody.
And not that they are any less impactful or influential. It's just there are genuinely so many people. And it was a great problem to have to cut down the list. Let me tell you, I think there was about 50 names at one point.
We did toy with the idea of just sitting here with like a scroll and just reading the names of everyone. And Mary O'Connor, Jane Murphy. Yeah.
It was like reading victims from a tragedy. You literally just let them appear on the screen.
You don't have to go there.
No tragedies here, don't worry.
What's up next?
The Makers should be next. No, nope. It's the Masters. We did the Makers. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. So the Masters is next. And these are masters of their craft. So these are people who have worked in the industry for a significant amount of time. They have built from the bottom up. They've started often as apprentices. They've maybe had various roles in their distillery or their place of work before they become a master of their craft. So in here, we've got master distillers and master blenders. So essentially master distiller, how I used to word it to people is they are essentially in charge of everything up until distillation, and master blenders are in charge of cask programs, the finishing, the aging, the maturation of the whiskey. Two massively influential and important roles in the world of Irish whiskey and in getting a whiskey into a bottle as well, of course. So first up,
the name of the role of master, like it's an undefined title. In the sense of, if I want to be a lawyer, I have to have passed the bar. Now, if you want to be a distiller, you presumably you've qualified in brewing and distilling. But to become a master, then I heard one person say to me that a master has trained under another master, and at some like they have been like an apprentice under a master, and then they've taken over the title.
Yeah. That's very true as well, actually. Yeah, they've been, that's exactly right. They've learned from someone else, and then they've kind of slotted into that role very nicely. And it's lovely to see with various distilleries across Ireland how certain people are maybe moving on and there's distillers coming up after them. Dave McCabe's a perfect example. He's now obviously master blender at Middleton. Perfect example of kind of that movement, which is fantastic. And that's what you want. You want the people who are coming through the ranks to move up into these roles. And as I said, we'll certainly see it happen more often, which is great. So first up here is another lady who needs very little introduction, and a woman who is incredibly important and a great friend to me. And that is, of course, Alex Thomas. So she is currently Bushmills and Sexton master blender. So Alex she had a really interesting start to her career. She was a timber merchant. So she would have learned about different types of wood throughout her early career. Before she joined the Old Bushmills distillery, the Bushmills team in 2004, she was initially an apprentice cooper. So she learned a lot from a cooper who was once there. Kind of, again, as I said, built her way up into being head of maturation. And then she qualified as blender in 2012. She became Sexton Master Blender in 2017 and was appointed Bushmills Master Blender in November 2021. So she is in charge of 500,000 casks on site at the Old Bushmills distillery. Massive inventory of casks there that she is working with to come out with some incredible releases. She is the most humble person in the industry. She is an absolute wealth of knowledge, and many of us have been very lucky to know her and meet her along the way, and she's an incredible lady, an absolute superstar.
And somebody who wants to share her knowledge at every opportunity.
Everyone, yeah.
and is the happiest, most joyful master I've ever met in my life. Like,
yeah,
with the weight of and the burden of the role, which could be a lot for some people, Alex does not show any signs of that. She is out there proud and delighted, and I've never met somebody so happy to be in a role as Alex.
I couldn't agree more. And it was actually a comment that she often got when I used to work trade shows with her, Whiskey Live in Dublin and Belfast Social and various trade shows. Everyone commented on how lovely it was to see a master blender interacting with people, because often, as you say, it's a huge role. It's a lot of pressure, very, very heavy pressure role. So a lot of master blenders you don't tend to see very often. They kind of stick to being in the distillery, but Alex is very much out front and center. She hosts events, she meets people face to face, and she's infectious. Her passion is just infectious for what she does, and she just wants to help everyone understand her role, her passion, and she taught me so much. No matter how many times I met up with her, I always learned something new from her. So I have her to thank for an awful lot. And yeah, she's an absolute legend. And yes, Lloyd, she is indeed the woman to thank for Sexton.
And look at that through line of people in the world of Irish whiskey. On her first day in Bushmills, she was filling sample bottles for Billy Lighton,
Yes.
who was working at Bushmills at the time, who then went on to become the master blender in Middleton. And then you learned from Alex. Alex learned from Billy Lighton. And three of you are all well known in the industry. So it's a small old world.
All from the North Coast as well. All not from towns maybe about 20 minutes apart from each other, which is quite funny as well.
Next up is a woman we celebrated last week on the Shebeen, which is who is the master distiller at Roe & Co., the Diageo-owned distillery in the old power plant of the Guinness Brewery on James Street in Dublin. And Laura is an English woman doing great things in Ireland. And Laura has a fascinating approach, a kind of a holistic approach to distilling and kind of a sensorial approach, where Laura talks a lot about like the elements of perfume making and the senses, and more than just the academia of distillation, but rather the emotional aspects, the connection with our surroundings, the connection between our nose and our palates. And Laura spoke with great passion at the launch of their inaugural whiskey, their Solera release 2 weeks ago in the distillery. And we're hoping to have Laura on for Stories and Sips Meet the Maker event very soon to share her approach and her ideas for distillation. But she runs a massive operation in Dublin and has a big team up there. And you don't hear a lot about Laura because she's kind of quietly doing what she does behind the scenes. But I'd like to make her more known. I'd like more people to know what Laura is doing, because she's a lady and a kind soul who likes nothing more than to just proudly share what she's working on, which is a kind of a hallmark of so many of these women in whiskey.
Yeah, lovely soul, an absolute gem. And I think it's so interesting. I mean, obviously, you hear most events, most whiskey tastings and events are by and large hosted by ambassadors. And obviously they are very well informed on how the whiskey is produced, all the ins and outs, the intricacies of the brand. But hearing from a distiller or a blender's perspective is so different, because they obviously speak about it from a much different perspective and a more kind of scientific, nerdy perspective, which we all love to hear from now and then. And she is, as you say, I mean, being a master distiller is a big role, a blender's a big role, and typically their time is taken up being on site. So when they do come out, it's great. And yeah, she's fascinating to listen to.
I'd like to spend more time with Laura and learn more, because I feel like there's a lot of untapped knowledge in there that she could share with us.
Absolutely. Well, I'd say you might get her for a Meet the Maker. Sure.
We will. She already agreed. She's on the hook.
Did. She's in now. And then another lady that we could not go without mentioning is Helen Mulholland. So I've seen a few comments who have already mentioned Helen and they're familiar with her. So Helen was master blender at Bushmills, so before Alex stepped into the role. So again, masters learning from masters, as we said there. Helen worked with Bushmills for 30 years, And the incredible thing about Helen is that she was Ireland's first ever woman master blender. So a real kind of stake in the ground, a real trailblazer there. There had never been a woman in that position before her, which is incredible. She was also the first woman inducted into the Whiskey Magazine's Hall of Fame, and also the first woman to be the Chairman's Award for the Irish Whiskey Association for her contribution to the Irish whiskey industry. So a lot of firsts here for Helen, and you cannot go without mentioning her. So Helen, she moved on from Bushmills towards the end of 2021, just before Alex obviously was appointed her role, November 21, and Helen is now Master Blender at Lochgill Distillery. So she's still in the same role with a different distillery.
Which is a Sazerac-owned distillery today. It was acquired 2 years ago. And Sazerac also owns Paddy Irish Whiskey, Michael Collins Irish Whiskey. We'll hear more from them in due course as they have a big undertaking and a big job ahead of the coming 5 or 10 years, where they are going to restore Hazelwood House in Sligo. They're going to expand the distillery, and it'll become the Irish home for Sazerac and all of their brands. So Helen obviously is going to play a significant role there, and quite a coup to secure Helen's expertise. But I suppose Sazerac can make you pay attention.
Yes, exactly. make it your ears prick up. Absolutely. No, it's great to see that she's moved on. Just a kind of a little bit of a different role, not a different role, but a different kind of challenge for her.
And the first time I ever even saw you or met you, not even met you, but even heard of you, Lauren, was on an event with Helen, where you were launching, I think, the inaugural Bushmills Causeway collection.
Yeah. Would you believe that was the first time Helen had ever done any tastings, public kind of presentations?
Really?
Was 2020. Yeah. Well, when you think about it, Bushmills up until that point hadn't really released a lot of whiskies. So Helen was very much kind of quietly doing what she did behind the scenes, and she didn't really make many public appearances at that time, didn't do tastings, didn't really do interviews. Would have been a very odd interview she would have done. And when the Causeway was released in 2020 online, obviously pandemic, that was the first kind of public appearance. So it's actually quite an honor. I co-hosted her first ever sort of tasting release with that, which was definitely a career highlight for me.
I'd like to think she co-hosted your launch event.
No, definitely not. She did say to me, though, which was very lovely, that I made her feel at ease when she was presenting, which was a very nice compliment. So I'll take that.
you don't have that effect with everyone. You don't put us all at ease.
No.
But look, as long as she got something out of you, that's all that matters.
Well, actually, I'll put everybody on edge next week. No, I'm joking. I won't.
Poor whiskey bus.
Yeah. We sat at the top of the bus with a stern face. I won't. Don't worry.
Next up, we are going to mention the marketers. So the marketers are, I suppose, those in the world of Irish whiskey who do great things to showcase and spread the word and represent and get the word out there about Irish whiskey, and who have flown the flag for some of them most of their careers, who have dedicated their working life to getting whiskey out there. They don't make it, they don't produce it, they talk about it, they sample it, they get people excited, and without whom there would be no whiskey industry, because you can make all the whiskey in the world, but if there's nobody to market and sell it, it'll sit on shelves gathering dust, and nobody wants that.
Facts. It's so true. So massive part, we mentioned earlier, to the kind of growth of Irish whiskey and bringing a younger generation and more women into the industry has massively also been driven by ambassadors and the increase of Irish whiskey ambassadors for brands, which is great. So as Barry mentioned, these people, the marketers, it's quite a broad spectrum, because they can be people who work behind the scenes on brand projects, kind of various things that need to be pushed over the line throughout the year for brands. They're ambassadors, and people who also partially own businesses. We'll give a little special shout out at the end as well. So a nice broad spectrum of people in here, I think.
I agree. And no list of marketers would be complete if we didn't kick it off with the marketer of Irish whiskey. And Lauren, you didn't put yourself on this list and you wouldn't let me put you on the list. Well, you don't have control of the controls here. I've got control of the controls. First off, and I'm going to turn off your microphone because I want to hero Lauren McMullen, because there is no greater marketer in the world of Irish whiskey that I know of, who has spent the last 11 odd years of her life working in the world of Irish whiskey, almost 10 of those with Bushmills, and almost one with us now at Irish Whiskey Experiences. We're very lucky to have Lauren work with us. And every week she comes on here and teaches us something. She teaches me something. She teaches you something, and shares her knowledge, her passion for Irish whiskey. I think you'll agree, in a way that is contagious, that is effusive, that is there's a warmth and a glow about Lauren when she's presenting about Irish whiskey, because she's passionate and she talks about the brands. When she's not in the shebeen, she's messaging about them, she's talking about them, she's asking questions about them, she's researching them, she's going on Monday to a tasting to learn more so that she can tell you more about Irish whiskey. So we are starting our category of marketers here with the women marketer in the world of Irish whiskey, and that's Lauren McMullen. So take a bow, Lauren. You deserve it. You are our marketer.
Stop. I'm speechless. Thank you very much, Barry. That's very kind of you. No, I didn't want to be included on this list, to be honest, because self-praise is no praise, as they say. That's very kind. Thank you very much. I was not expecting that photo to appear. I was like, Sarah, nope.
You're inspiring many, and there's many women in the world of whiskey who now see a path to being able to talk about whiskey, and maybe they didn't think they could come on every week and talk about whiskey, or they didn't think they have enough knowledge, and of course they do. And you're showing people that anything's possible. You can work in a distillery, you can work for and represent the whole industry as you do now. You can come on every week and talk about different topics. You can share your passion. You're going to inspire the next generation of marketers and makers along the way as well. So don't underestimate the impact that you're having.
Thank you very much. That's very kind. And thank you, everyone, as well. All of our loyal followers in the comments. You're all very kind. I'm blushing here. You can't see it through the screen, but I am. No, that's very, very nice. Listen, it's an honor to be a part of the Irish whiskey industry, to represent incredible people, not just women, but incredible brands, and everyone who is just paving an unbelievable path for our industry. And it's great with Irish Whiskey Experiences that we can highlight brands in such a unique way, and do things that people never thought possible with certain people and certain brands, and just shine a light on this incredible island that we call home and our incredible industry. So I'll drink to that. Sláinte.
You are the light that shines a light. So Sláinte to you.
Thank you, everybody. I'll try to swallow a wee tear here as I speak about all the other incredible women in the industry. This is who I thought was going to appear on the screen, and then I saw my own face, which was quite traumatizing. So the second now, thanks, Barry. One of the ladies that I couldn't go without mentioning in the marketer section is Sarah Kennedy, who many of you will know from being on Barry's Lock-ins back in the day. She's very, very vocal in our online community, great supporter of us, which is amazing. And she's one of my best friends as well. She's a great girl. Sarah, her background's actually in insurance. So she, again, had a very different entrance into the Irish whiskey industry, but she actually helped insure distilleries. So by doing that, she kind of gained a little bit of an interest into the world of whiskey. She had a kind of her own separate passion of Irish whiskey just throughout her life. Growing up, it was very much a spirit that was consumed in her family. So she always had a little bit of an interest in the industry and in the liquid itself. So Sarah started with McConnell's Irish whiskey. She originally was their brand ambassador back in 2020. Was when she joined their team. And McConnell's is an old Belfast brand, which is going through a resurgence. It's very much going through a resurgence as their new distillery is about to open in the next couple of weeks. So she's really been there from the very start of reviving this brand. She's built her way up. She's now brand manager, and she oversees so much of the projects that you see come out of McConnell's, from the whiskey releases to what's going on at the distillery, various events. She is an incredible girl, and she's so passionate about the industry. One of the hardest working people I know. know, and she's fantastic. So we'll be working with her a lot in the future, and we'll be seeing great things come out of McConnell's now that they have their brand new shiny distillery and new shiny stills in the Criminal Road Jail in Belfast, which is fantastic.
And Sarah will be part of Whiskey Bus number 4.
She will indeed. Yep.
September.
She will indeed. They have the honour, McConnell's have the honour of being our first visit, our welcome night is there. So
fantastic. Great. Next up, we have Janice Snowden. Janice, I've known for many, many years. I've known Janice through 3 different roles now. I first met Janice back in probably 2018 when she was the brand ambassador in the United States for Kilbeggan and for the Cooley whiskies. And I remember meeting Janice in New York, and we did a video. You can probably find it on this YouTube channel if you go back far enough. Sitting in a bar in New York with a few cameras and just chatting away. Janice has been a great representative of Irish whiskey for a long, long time. More recently, she was the ambassador for Irish Distillers and Jameson in London, and as of 1 week ago, is the new UK brand ambassador for Bushmills, which is incredible. And Bushmills are very lucky to have Janice because she has spent her career being I would say a stylish, educated ambassador for Irish whiskey. She is a lady in Irish whiskey and very well respected, brings a lot of knowledge to the table, and has built a great community over the years, and is very, very, very well respected, very professional in everything she does. And Janice has now worked for significant brands within the world of Irish whiskey. So what brands get the benefit of when someone like Janice joins them, like Bushmills, is not just her whiskey knowledge, but her contacts and the relationships and the community she's built up over the years who will follow Janice, and bars and restaurants and accounts that will want to work with Janice will now shift from the previous brand to Bushmills. Why? Because Janice is working there. So tonight we raise a glass and tip the hat to Janice and welcome to your new role as the malt maven in Bushmills. And we say Sláinte to you, Janice. Cheers.
Sláinte, Janice. You're a credit to the Bushmills team, and it's great to see you move into that role. There's still Bushmills in my glass, so I'm toasting you with the right whiskey. No, she'll be fantastic, and I think Bushmills haven't had a UK-based ambassador since Donal McLean left, who is now obviously one of the founders of Two Stacks Irish Whiskey. Many of you might not have known that. He used to work for Bushmills in London. So Janice, with her contacts all across the UK, will be a fantastic addition to the team. And as you said, Barry, she brings a wealth of knowledge as well. So no better woman, and it's great to see her slide into that position.
Sure is.
So next up is another Belfast girl who came onto the scene in 2021, late 2020, early 2021, with the kind of launch of Titanic Distillers whiskey. And of course, they now since have an absolutely gorgeous distillery in the Titanic Quarter in Belfast, in the old Titanic pump house, which we're all big fans of, as you already know. So Arisha is the brand ambassador for Titanic. She, her career previously was in the hospitality industry. So she was formerly a bartender. She's got fantastic drinks knowledge, fantastic cocktail knowledge, and she stepped into the role of ambassador, as I said, back in 2020. She did also formerly work for Diageo briefly as well, just before the pandemic, on their drinks development team. So world of knowledge, not just in whiskey, but all across various different brands, vodka, gin, vermouth, and so on. She is a powerhouse of a woman. Barry, you've been in the same room as her when she held a tasting. She commands a room like no one else I've ever seen. No. She could be in a room full of 50 men, and she is the only person that everyone is looking at and paying attention to. You could hear a pin drop. She is so knowledgeable about the whiskey category, about Titanic, all the intricacies of the whiskies, the components that go into the blends. She really, really knows her stuff. And she's a lady, a great friend of mine as well. She really is.
Yeah, that we had a great event there for our day in Belfast, our Whiskey Bus Belfast Day, a few months ago. And Arisha led us on a deconstruction of the Titanic whiskey and the 4 or 5 components in it. And I had not been on a tasting with Arisha before. And like Lauren said, you couldn't keep your eyes off her because she has the whole room
Yeah.
It was just poetry in motion to watch her command the room. It was amazing. I remember saying, I went up to her after, I said, that was an unbelievable tasting. Fair play to you. Wow, amazing. So if you ever have the chance to hear her, go hear her present.
Yeah, definitely. And she does amazing work with Titanic as well. They do I actually think they do little kind of, as it meet the neighbors, I think it's called, little events that they do in their distillery every so often, where they bring in local chefs, local candle makers. They do cocktail masterclasses in that very section that you're seeing there. It's a lovely little tasting bar area, just kind of levitating above their sort of reception area of the distillery. And she leads them all, and it's incredible. And Arisha she'll be a big part of our day at Titanic Distillers on the Whiskey Bus in September as well. So you'll get to see her in action, and she is a force of nature. Such an asset to the Irish whiskey industry, and it was great to see her come on board as well. Actually, with another girl who has since moved on, Claire. She was the other Titanic ambassador. It was great to see, not just in the Irish whiskey industry as a whole, but in Belfast, so many women coming into the industry. It was great to be joined and have a little bit of female company after a few years of my role.
Next up, we have a very different marketer, and this is Carol Quinn. Carol Quinn is the archivist for Irish distillers, and the archivist is responsible for all of the historical artifacts belonging to a distillery or brand. In the case of Carol Quinn, she's the custodian of hundreds of years of artifacts, from Jameson going all the way back to 1780, from Powers going all the way back to 1791, Redbreast brand going back to 1912 and even before. The Spot whiskies has amassed an awful lot of information on things like the Paddy brand, which was part of Irish Distillers, obviously, for so many years. And Carol Quinn is an unbelievable marketer and an unbelievable advocate for the role of history and preservation of history and recording of history and the archiving of important information and alcohol and liquid, and the importance of finding ways to record it, store it, save it for future generations. She spent the last almost 10 years unpacking pallets of archives that came at her from various angles. Much of it is being catalogued. Some of it is being digitized. Some of it involves making available records for Ancestry.com, so the families can trace their roots all the way back to who worked at various distilleries. And it's an unbelievable role. And Carol has been kind enough over the years to open up the doors of the archive to me and others who have an absolute passion for history and whiskey as well. And when Carol knows that you have a passion for history, she'll latch onto it and she'll say, come in here, I want to show you something. And she might have a table laid out with hundreds of years of archives, and she'll say, here's John Jameson's diary, have a leaf through that. Here's James Powers' notes from this date. Here's a grain that we found inside John Jameson's notebook that we have since analyzed, and we've used it to inform a future Method of Madness release, and on and on and on. And when she knew I was a Powers fan, she laid out a whole table of Powers memorabilia, badges, miniature bottles, postcards going back hundreds of years. And I was like a kid in a toy shop just listening to Carol talk about it. She presented last year at Cork Whiskey Fest, an amazing presentation. She took our group on the last whiskey bus in Middleton for an hour and blew people's mind with a potted history of the evolution of whiskey in Ireland, and specifically in Cork over the last couple of hundred years. And Carol is a lady. She is a kind soul. A couple of months ago, as the Middleton Distillery new visitor experience reopened, I remember going down one Thursday afternoon, just 2 days after it opened, before the flooding hit and they had to sadly close it. I parked up my car outside the distillery. I thought I'd pop in here and have a quick look. And as I was getting out of the car, Carol Quinn was leaving work for the day, and she spotted me and said, are you going in? I said, I am. She goes, come on, I'll take you in. So turned around, grabbed my arm, in we went, and she said, you're not paying anyway. We've got this. Come on. He's with me. And so she toured me around every aspect of the refurbishment, and she was so proud of it. And then finally she brought me into where they were starting a presentation, kind of a big video presentation to kick off the new visitor experience. And the first person that comes up on screen is Carol Quinn. I said, now I know why you brought me in here. You wanted me to see you up on the screen.
She wanted to show someone her lovely portrait. You're right, she is a lady. And I mean, the work she has done with Irish Distillers Middleton is unbelievable. Just years of dedication and commitment to learning all about the history of the various brands, and thousands of pieces of history, thousands that are in her care. And she has logged and she has recorded and obviously archived. Listening to her last August was just amazing. It was another one of those situations where some people's mouths were hanging open. We were picking some people's jaws off the floor. Everyone was just, it was just eyes on Carol, listening to her and her passion and her knowledge. And it's just with such ease that she delivers her wealth of knowledge. She's incredible. Couldn't leave her out.
A few months ago, actually probably last year, I took my dad up to Cork for not a whiskey event, but just a historical walk. There's a man that does these great historical walks around Cork, and you'd meet at a certain time in the morning, a Sunday morning, and people would just gather there and come. And it was the first time my dad had been on it. I'd been on a few of them. I dragged him up there. I said, "You'll enjoy this." Anyway, before the talk started, I spotted out of the corner of my eye, there's Carol Quinn over in the corner. So I wave over to Carol. You know, she comes over and starts chatting. And sure, herself and my dad then started talking for the next 2 hours. "Do you know this man from Cove?" "I do." "Do you know that fella?" "I do." And they knew people. They knew the same people. And sure, I didn't have to do a thing. Two of them just chatted for the whole tour.
I love that. What is that? What's that meme? It's like when two Irish people meet, you've got 30 seconds to find a common friend or you both die.
That's right.
It's like that. Like, who do you know that I know? Who do you know? Okay, yes. Friend of a friend. So true. Doesn't do anything to dispel the rumor that everyone in Ireland knows each other at all.
Know everybody. I know. People won't believe it.
Unbelievable. Another absolute boss of a lady is Steph Shen. That's a great photo as well. So it's just like, I'm the boss here. Is Steph Shen, who is the global brand ambassador for the Quintessential Brands Group, which is a parent company of Dublin Liberty's distillery. Of course, so she's the ambassador for the likes of the Dead Rabbit whiskey, the Dubliner whiskey as well. Steph is another person whose passion and presentations are infectious. The way she speaks about each and every single SKU, each and every single whiskey under the Dublin Liberties brand, you can't help but fall in love with her and her passion for the distillery. She has been, I think, with Dublin Liberties pretty much since day one. She's been there from very, very early days, back in about 2019 or so. And she, previously to that, was a bartender. So she's massively known in the hospitality industry all across Dublin, which obviously hugely helped her role as ambassador when she eventually went to call into the bars to try and promote and market her product. And you'll see her at various festivals and shows, not only in Ireland, but all across the world as well, being global ambassador. She makes unbelievable cocktails. Some of the creations and concoctions that she comes up with just blow your mind. Absolute sweetheart. She will always talk to you, no matter how busy or how busy her stand is at a festival. Lovely lady. And she was part of the first whiskey bus as well, wasn't she?
She was. She kicked off our first whiskey bus. Our reception for our first ever event, and our first ever whiskey bus was hosted by Steph at Dublin Liberties Distillery. And her energy was at a high level at that kickoff that we asked if we could take her on the bus. Can we smuggle you away? In fact, Lauren, you're lucky we didn't get to smuggle her, because otherwise there'd be no space for you now, because we'd have smuggled somebody else on. But she said, "No, Lauren will be coming in a year's time. Let Lauren come."
Okay. So second best here. Is that how it is?
She said no, so we went to you. No.
I believe you.
And also, if you want a masterclass in cocktail making, go to storiedandsips.com and go through our Meet the Maker events. Steph hosted a great cocktail night with us with Irish whiskey that you can watch a replay of, which was a fantastic night. It went on for hours and nobody wanted to go to bed because we were all drinking great cocktails. It was great fun.
She makes whiskey so accessible to people through her cocktails, and you know that she comes up with concoctions that you might think that'll never work in a cocktail with Irish whiskey, and it does. So she's played a huge part in the growth of the industry, certainly mainly in Dublin, and she's an absolute lady.
Next up, we go over to the west coast of the United States. We go to LA and Southern California to Donna Stewart, a Dublin girl who has made Southern California her home. Donna is today a brand ambassador for the west coast of the US for Lost Irish Whiskey. Previously, Donna was with Tullamore Dew. It's how I got to know Donna. I got to know Donna because as the lock-ins started, when I was living in Southern California, in San Diego, and the live stream started, I'd say I was only 3 or 4 weeks into them, and somebody in Ireland said, "You need Tullamore Dew on it. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you a bottle of Tullamore Dew." And they contacted this person in Ireland, contacted Donna and said, "You got to get this guy Barry Chandler a bottle of Tullamore Dew." She said, "Who's Barry Chandler?" And they said, "It doesn't matter." And so a day later, there's a knock on my door, and there's a woman standing outside with a bottle of Tullamore Dew, and it's Donna. And she introduced herself, told me what she did with Tullamore Dew, and fast forward a few months, she was on the lock-in, got to become friends with her and Tim Hurley, who eventually started Lost Irish Whiskey. The three of us drank whiskey on the roof of my building in San Diego, and enjoyed a great session drinking whiskey. And Donna's a fantastic ambassador and a great connector of people in Southern California around Irish whiskey. And I think employee number 1 at Lost Irish Whiskey, and
That's
justifiably so.
I'm so glad you put the Lost Irish bottle in there because I couldn't find a really nice photo of her that fit the slides with Lost Irish.
Underneath that Lost Irish is a bottle of Tullamore Dew, folks.
I appreciate that. Because it's such a nice photo of her. It's great. Donna would always come back to Ireland, a couple of times a year really, but I always see her at Whiskey Live, and we always have a good catch up. And the Lost Irish stand was always behind Bushmills when I still work with them, so we were kind of like swapping samples and swapping whiskey. So it's always great to see her, and she's so well connected and so well known across the US, and she's done an unbelievable job at spreading the word, not just of the brand she specifically worked for, but Ireland and Irish whiskey in general. So she's a super asset to the world of Irish whiskey.
Hat tip to you, Donna. Cheers.
There you go.
Next up, we are also going to, this time we're going to hear a whole team, and the three of them are in this photo. You got to spot them. Well,
the reason there's a photo full of women, which is fantastic. These are all ladies of the Irish whiskey industry. But we couldn't find one with the 3 of these girls together.
No. So I will point out the Grace O'Malley team. Grace O'Malley Irish Whiskey, of course. Grace O'Malley, herself a woman who is honoured as the Grace O'Malley moniker for that whiskey brand. The team at Grace O'Malley is a women-run team, fantastically. And they have gone beyond just working in the whiskey industry. They have now started a non-profit called Women in Irish Whiskey. And this is a photograph of their inaugural gathering. They had another gathering today for International Women's Day at Roe & Co Distillery, with, I'd imagine, an even larger crowd than this. But wearing the white suit is Heather. To her right and our left is Anne-Marie. And to her right and our left is Serena. The 3 of them are the team of Grace O'Malley. There are more members of the team, aren't there, Lauren, as well?
Yes, there are indeed. So our final dinner on the Whiskey Bus in Westport is co-hosted by Grace O'Malley, and their phenomenal kind of sales manager in the west of Ireland, Tara Clark. So she has massively helped me in pulling together that tasting, which is going to be fantastic, and such a lovely and a very poignant way, I think, to end our Whiskey Bus. So they have a lovely team, all really passionate, and spreading the good word of Grace O'Malley.
And to their role now, or their goal, is to encourage and empower and hero and celebrate women in Irish whiskey year round, not just one day a year. And their nonprofit aims to do that through meetups, through connections, probably through mentorship as well. And it's fantastic to see. And what's amazing and great is that I don't recognize 90% of the people in that photograph. And that's the good news, because that means there's so many women in Irish whiskey doing things. And we haven't even scratched the surface, which is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. As we say, there's people that we have yet to meet coming up the ranks. I mean, there's a lovely lady reached out to me earlier in the week on Instagram. She's a distiller at Church of Oak Distillery, Lauren Doyle. And she was having a great chat with me about kind of building her own profile and her own Instagram and social media as well. So many lovely, passionate, incredible people are coming up the ranks, which we'll hear so much more about in the coming months and years, which is only a good thing. The more women that join, the more people that join the Irish whiskey industry, the stronger and greater our industry gets. So I'm here for it.
Sounds like you've been doing some mentoring this week, Lauren.
No.
Sounds like you've been mentoring.
Just nice little pieces of information and guidance, you know.
We have to acknowledge the only, to the best of our knowledge, mother and daughter team in the world of Irish whiskey. There may be others. If there are, please let us know. If we've forgotten or omitted, you will correct us as you should.
Absolutely.
But we must hero Katie and Jade Sheehy. Katie, co-owner of Irish Whiskey Auctions. I would say the boss of Irish Whiskey Auctions. Yeah. Anthony works for her. And this bottle of whiskey here, Sheehy's Single. This is a release that is 5 years old. Irish Whiskey Auctions, to celebrate 5 years old, released a 5-year-old single malt. And it is a malt that was put together by Jade at Great Northern Distillery, where she works as a blender. And Jade does a lot of the blending work and leading the blending team and helping brands select and identify their blends. And between Jade in Great Northern and Katie in Irish Whiskey Auctions, you've got one family member making the stuff, the other selling it. The whole industry is predicated on the two of these keeping on doing what they're doing. And we hero Katie and we hero Jade tonight.
We do indeed. We put them in at the end as a lovely little mention, as you said, Barry, is a mother-daughter duo. So Jade, obviously Anthony and Katie's daughter, she originally worked for Irish Whiskey Auctions. She was part of the team there as well until she became a blender in Great Northern. Was the end of 2022, and the speed at which she has learned and the knowledge that she has amassed by working in Great Northern and where she is now and how much she has grown in under 2 years is a testament to her and her passion and her knowledge. What she is doing there is absolutely incredible. And I have no doubt that she will continue to build on that and grow and learn as she is with Great Northern. No better woman for it. She's great crack. She's so passionate, and yeah, she's going to do great things. So lovely little duo there, and obviously great people and very special to us.
We have omitted, overlooked, forgotten about, insulted, annoyed many women who have not been mentioned here tonight, and it's not intentional in any way. It's only that we celebrate all women in whiskey tonight. We couldn't mention everybody, or we would be here all night long. But those we didn't get to, we'll try and hero another time, right?
Absolutely. There's so many other women who are distillers out there doing great things for big brands and brands that are up and coming. So many women behind the scenes that we never hear of and never see, that are building out fantastic marketing campaigns for brands. Certain ambassadors who are maybe just beginning their journey in the industry, just started. So many. And as Barry said at the start, and I'm going to bookmark it at the end of the shebeen as well, no one has been omitted for any reason. It's literally just because we do not have the time to cover 50 plus people in a 1 hour and 30-minute period. Tonight was a celebration, and we raised a glass to all the amazing women who are part of this industry, who I learn from every day. I hope some people learn from me as well. That's all I can ever hope for. And the industry wouldn't be the same without them. So a big sláinte and happy International Women's Day.
International Women's Day, everybody. Now, the list of men. Let's pull that up.
We're not mansplaining at the end of this.
Let me tell you how things are going to work around here, Lauren. A few questions here. Richard said, can somebody please tell the brands that North Dakota is a state? Richard, it may well be a state, but it's a state with a population smaller than most villages in the east or west coast. And that does nothing to diminish the beauty of North Dakota, but does everything to explain why brands don't tend to focus on areas where not only is there a small population, but the distance between areas of small population is so great as well. And that makes it very, very tough to get to. And that's why there's a thing called UPS, a thing called FedEx, a thing called DHL that can deliver hopefully to you. There is a cost to living in a beautiful state like North Dakota, and I think you've already found that out. Tom says very little info on Church of Oak. Yeah, Tom, they're keeping everything kind of under wraps at the moment. They are letting a few people in the industry one by one to get a look behind the scenes. Church of Oak is in Kildare, and it's Bono from U2 and Garrett Pitcher are the co-owners of the distillery. It's a stunning distillery. One of the most modern, design distilleries you'll ever see, certainly that you'll see in Ireland. They're doing interesting things. They're not in any rush. They're not in any great rush for you to see it, but we will see it and we will share more info as we have it.
As always.
As always, folks, again, we are thrilled to be able to showcase the great people of Irish whiskey, the great women of Irish whiskey. We have there's a lot going on at the moment, which will interfere with our Friday schedule or any schedule going forward for the next few weeks and months for a number of reasons. We have a whiskey bus next week. Excuse me.
So excited.
Which will, so this time next week, we will be busy ensuring that everyone got to bed. And that's important. The Friday after that, we will be in Cork Whiskey Fest and ensuring that all of our group got there okay. After the week after that, we will be unconscious and recovering after the whiskey bus.
No joke. 10 days.
But we love the Friday nights. We love the chance to do them. It's not always possible to do them every Friday. We'd love if it was, but there is a lot of work that goes into producing them and making them happen. And sometimes it's just not feasible because we have places that we have to be or events we have to host. And so sometimes we're just going to have to sacrifice the Friday nights. April, we will probably take April off because I'm going on vacation. I'm taking some time off, which I haven't done in quite a while. You may say, well, Barry, your life's a vacation. You make whiskey for a living and sell whiskey for a living. I couldn't agree more. But honestly, it's been a busy few months just back from Ohio, where we raised $62,000 for charity, did 6 events in 48 hours. It was a fantastic week. It nearly killed me. I'm not going to lie. I lost my voice. I am tired. I need to sleep now for a few days to get ready for Whiskey Bus. But then April is a month of recovery. But we have more whiskeys coming and events coming for the Whiskey Club as well. But we may take a little break for Friday nights in April and then come back with a vengeance maybe in May and June. And we'll do as best we can, but it won't be every week. We can only do what we can do, Lauren. That's all we can do.
All we can do is our best, absolutely. And as you said, next week we'll be probably fast asleep or in a bar. Who knows at this stage with lovely guests on the Whiskey Bus. We've a lot of whiskey to drink in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, unfortunately something has to give, and that is the shebang. You really don't want to see us live at midnight in a bar in Ireland. As much as you think that will be great crack, and I've joked about it before, no one wants to see that.
Tony says Lauren can handle her own. No doubt, Tony, but Lauren's got the same events coming up that I do. So she won't be physically where she is normally either. So that is, look, we try and balance it all, but look, there's only so much is physically possible. Which is okay. For those of you coming on Whiskey Bus, you had a couple of questions. It's no harm addressing it here because I think we do have a few attendees of our Whiskey Bus.
Yeah, we do.
We joke sometimes about, and maybe we make light of just how many distilleries we visit and how many whiskeys we're going to sample. But it is important not to be a downer here, but to say in no way is the Whiskey Bus a mess. In no way is the Whiskey Bus a week-long session. It is a really, for those of you who've been on, you'll agree to this, it's a controlled, managed, responsible, enjoyable week where everyone has a good time and we do not drink to excess. And that's important because if we did drink to excess, we wouldn't be lasting a week, I can tell you that. And so for those of you who are worried about keeping up, as I've seen some comments, there's no such thing. It's not a race. It's not a competition. It is a small few drinks, samples every day. You don't have to finish them. You don't have to even drink them. And it's actually more about meeting the people. That's what it's all about. You can buy all the whiskeys you want to take home. You don't have to consume them all there. And so for those who are worried about what you consume, it is not a session. It's a week-long holiday where you're going to enjoy things. And we're going to take care of you. Lauren and I have responsibility for your health and safety. We take that as our primary objective and our primary concern. But you'll have a lot of fun. I can assure you of that. You'll have a lot of fun.
It's I know, as you said, we do joke about how much whiskey it is, and 10 days of this and that. Sorry, I'm just laughing at Kevin. I was responsible in the Whiskey Bus until I met Troy. That's fair enough. Troy can sink pints of Guinness like no one I've ever seen. But anyway, the bus is mainly about the people. It's the enjoyment of the overall experience. actually, in full honesty, the whiskey is probably secondary to the people you meet and the experiences that you will have aside from just drinking the whiskey. Because we're very aware as well that on the buses, which is great, and we've had it before, where there are people joining that maybe aren't the biggest whiskey drinkers. So we have to think about them as well. We want this to be fun for absolutely everyone, even if you don't drink whiskey every week. So there's aspects of it outside of just the whiskey, which is great. So it's great fun. It's well paced. Absolutely. We of course encourage you in the evenings, if you want to, and if your social battery allows, to go out into the cities that we're staying in, have a whiskey in some of the beautiful bars, some of the best whiskey bars in Ireland, by all means. But if there is one evening that you're like, I'm really tired tonight, got a busy day tomorrow, an early start tomorrow, there is no shame in going to bed. In fact, a lot of the nights, you'll see us sometimes think, guys, lovely day, I'm off, because our social batteries are just low that day, and that's fine. We always stress, and we'll reiterate this next Friday, do what is comfortable for you. Whether that is staying out to 2 a.m., that's fine if you want to do that. If you want to go to bed at 9 p.m., that's also absolutely fine. No one is going to look down at you. No one's going to judge you if you don't do something or you don't go out for a session. Not at all.
And I think the buses have evolved in the best direction since we've started them. Whiskey Bus 1, where Anthony and I hosted it, and Lauren, you came out a couple of nights with us. Mm-hmm. We're the first to say we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know the levels of engagement or how many late nights could be managed, and every night was a late night, and it took 6 weeks to recover. Anthony was gone for 6 weeks. I couldn't get hold of the man, and while that was probably great for all the attendees, it's not a real financial model we can build on, where we disappear for 6 weeks and we can't surface. So
he actually did almost, like, we got concerned, like, about him.
As Anthony said recently, he said, if I could just get about 6 months in jail, it'd be a nice rest for me. I could recover. There'd be no phone calls. If I could just get I'm such a busy man. But what we've learned is that the bus last year, was even more enjoyable because it was more well paced. And this one's going to be even more enjoyable because we now know, like, I know more about myself. I'm actually, like, despite what you might see, I'm an introvert extrovert. I need quiet time. I need recharging time. I need 8 hours sleep every night. I didn't get that on the first whiskey bus. I got 4 hours sleep. That didn't make for a very good me at the end of it. But now that I get 8 hours every night, I'm great. And I'm the best fun to be around. And then I go get it again the next night. And I learned that about myself through the whiskey buses. I didn't know that going into it. So it's been a bit of a learning curve for all of us.
Definitely. And we've learned from feedback from previous whiskey buses and what guests have said to us. And of course, as we said before, our utmost priority at all times is the happiness and the satisfaction of you and our guests and who join us on the bus. So we do listen, and each time we do a whiskey bus, we'll learn something new. A new challenge might come up, a new question might come up, a new problem might come up, or a new learning, and we build on that, and we develop on that as well. So one of the biggest pieces of feedback we got was that everyone would prefer to have one really good big event a day and then take it a little bit easier in the evening. So that's what we've tried to do this year. And it doesn't mean to say once we get back to the hotel at 4 or 5 p.m. that we all disappear, me, Barry and Anthony leave. Not at all. It just means that there's no pressure on you to do anything in the evening. And trust me, you'll be thankful for that when the next morning comes and you're refreshed and you maybe haven't stayed up until 3 a.m. in a bar drinking pints. Trust us. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's well paced. There might seem like there's a lot of whiskey and a lot of places to visit, but it is very well spaced out. We promise. It's a great week. It's going
to be a lot of fun. Can't wait. Great food, great drinks, great people along the way. Fantastic. And you get to hang out with great marketers in the world of Irish whiskey like Lauren right here. That's the highlight of your trip. And you can all get your picture with Lauren. She'll pose for pictures with you, and you can frame them and show your kids.
It's €10 per photo. I accept payment in all major platforms.
I'll pay the first €1 of each photo.
There we are. There we go. Brian's just asked if there will be snow. I don't think so, thankfully. No. It has actually been very nice. Don't want to jinx it. We'll pray to the weather gods of Ireland. It's been really nice the past couple of days. A little bit chilly, but blue skies, a little bit of wind, nothing that we couldn't cope with. So we're hoping that pushes into next week. We do not know. The only thing we recommend, and I've mentioned this before, is layers, layers, layers. Light layers, raincoat, you'll be fine. No
comfortable
problem.
shoes.
Comfortable shoes, yeah.
Comfortable shoes, layers. Yeah, and that's it. You'll be fine. There'll always be somewhere to dip in out of the rain.
Tom, she's still looking forward to a thing called a late night spice bag. Yes, spice bags are amazing and the best food to have at the end of a night. If nobody knows what a spice bag is, now there's variants of it all across Ireland depending on which city and region you go to, but it's essentially chips, salt and chili pepper chips in a bag. There's a few onions, a few peppers, sometimes there's chicken in there as well. You can get it with curry sauce and it's amazing. Highly recommend. I'll bring you all to a chipper, as we call it in Ireland. I'll find one.
Lloyd has a very important question there. How much Pepsi Max will be served? Lloyd, what we'll do is we'll ensure that the bus is stocked with Pepsi Max at all times at no extra cost to our guests. So they may too enjoy the wonderful notes and tasting notes of this American produced beverage. And we'll allow that on the bus.
Usually Lucozade is the preferred option for a bit of energy.
Red
Bull was very popular in the August whiskey bus.
We'll have Lucozade, water, and I'm happy to buy anybody a Pepsi Max who wants to try it.
I will lead everyone for a spice bag as well, definitely. They're very
Rich,
nice.
There's different names for things in Ireland compared to the US. Like Pepsi Zero is Pepsi Max. Like that's what Pepsi Max is. Just different name for it here. There's Coke Zero.
Coke Zero's my preferred choice.
All right. Listen, folks, if you're part of Stories and Sips, make sure you get hold of a bottle of the Two Stacks blend. We'll arrange a tasting of this probably after the whiskey bus. If you are not a member, it's not too late to join. We've got cans. Maybe I'll bring a few cans on the bus. For a few people, I'll hand them out as prizes for something random. Best singer on the bus, maybe. I don't know. Things like that. And we'll have a good time. It's been a great night sharing the Women in Whiskey. Lauren, thank you for you did a lot of the work in bringing this together tonight, and thank you for your role in the world of Irish whiskey too, and for teaching us every week about whiskey. You're a star.
Thank you very much, and thank you as always to all our lovely community and all the comments that we receive every week. It's so nice to see all the familiar faces, all the loyal faces tune in every single week. So thank you so much, everyone. And for those of you who are coming to see us next week, we wish you safe travels. I know some of you are traveling tomorrow to Ireland a little bit earlier. So we wish you all safe travels. We cannot wait to see you. We cannot wait to greet you with big smiling faces in Ireland next week. So thank you so much, everyone, and Sláinte. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. See you all soon.